that horrible or what? Wow. Welcome. Glad that you all are here with us today. It's really good to have you. Let me just begin with a little impromptu survey just to kind of find out how y'all are doing here today. How many of you hit the snooze button more than 3 times in a row? Anybody do that? No, really? Oh, 1 or 2. Okay, all right. Be honest about it now, all right? And how many of you would admit to sleeping with the lights on just because you were too lazy to get up and turn them off? Yeah, all right. Or maybe the TV, you just sleep with the TV on because you're just too lazy to turn it off? Yeah, I understand that. How many of you just don't even set an alarm at all because you know you're going to sleep through it anyway? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a possibility. Okay, so for those of you who are live here at GraceLife.tv, we're just glad to have you here today at the El Paso campus. Really good to have you. For all of you who are joining us online as well around the United States and literally throughout the world, just welcome. Glad that you're with us today. Just good to have you. This is week number 5 of our new series called The Abundant Life. And in this series, we've been talking about a lot of different things. But basically, not only where life is found, but where our identity is found and those kind of things. And today we're going to be talking about specifically motivation. We're going to be talking about motivation. Kind of an interesting subject, and hopefully you'll find it interesting as well. In the religious world, laziness is known as sloth, right? I guess all of you kind of probably have heard that at some point in time or another, that in the religious world it's always called sloth or slothfulness. And the Bible definitely does talk about slothfulness or being lazy. For example, in Proverbs 6:9 it says, "How long will you lie down, O sluggard? And when will you arise from your sleep?" Right? That's kind of talking about being lazy, right? Proverbs 19:24 says, "Some of you are too lazy to lift a hand to feed themselves." Well, I don't know if I've ever been that lazy before. I mean, I like to eat. I'm one of those people that likes to eat. So I've never been too lazy to eat, I don't guess. But I suppose you could get that far. You know, I've always heard that sloth is one of those things that's considered to be one of the 7 deadly sins, whatever that is or whatever that's supposed to mean. I guess I really don't know. But it sounds pretty awesome. If slothfulness is one of the 7 deadly sins, it sounds pretty ominous, you know. Well, according to Webster, sloth, as you might have already guessed, is defined as a disinclination to work or exert oneself. Now, we're going to talk about something a little bit different in a minute, but that's kind of what we think about slothfulness as being, is a disinclination to work or exert yourself. However, there's a gal by the name of Dorothy Sayers who's best known for her mystery novels and short stories and those kind of things, and she came up with this definition that I think says it pretty good. She says, "Sloth is that which believes in nothing, cares for nothing, seeks to know nothing, interferes with nothing, enjoys nothing, loves nothing, hates nothing, finds purpose in nothing, lives for nothing, and remains alive only because there is nothing it would die for." Whew. Pretty crazy, huh? Whew. I guess if that pretty well sums it up, if that's what you think slothfulness is or being laziness is. That'd certainly be a really depressing way to live, wouldn't it? If that's how you were to live life. That's pretty bad. So how many of you would say that there are times in your life when you're just plain too lazy to either do what you know you should do, or too lazy? Yeah, right? We all do that, you know. Or maybe even too lazy to do what you really want to do. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, that makes sense. Looks good to me, you know. I can do that. But you know what? That kind of takes over in our lives once in a while, doesn't it? Where we just kind of sit back and don't want to do nothing. We just don't want to do nothing. We just want to sit there and do nothing. So if laziness is a problem, or is the problem, if you want to look at it in that respect, then what is the solution? What would you say the solution is to laziness? Well, what do you think? Let me ask it this way. What do you think it is that we need most in our life at that point in time? I think that probably most of us would probably say we need to be motivated, right? If we're lazy, if we just don't want to do nothing, then what we need is a little bit of motivation to do something. That's probably what we'd kind of come up with. So in the center oval in your life diagram that we've been working on the last few weeks, and we'll continue to fill that out, what I want you to do is put in the word motivation there in that center oval. put motivation there. Write motivation in that center oval, because motivation is what we've been talking about today, and it's kind of one of those really important things that we need to discuss and talk about. So what exactly is motivation? What exactly is motivation? We've already looked at what it is to be lazy or slothful, or whatever word you want to use there. But the fact is, most of us probably know that we just need to get motivated sometimes, you know. That's what I tell myself sometimes. I just need to get motivated. I just need some motivation somehow or another. But the next question is, and probably the most critical question is, how do you do that, right? I mean, I know that there's times in my life when I say I need to get motivated, but how do you do that? How do you accomplish that? Where does motivation come from? How do you get motivated? Where does motivation come from? Well, again, let's kind of look at a definition for the word motivation. In its most basic sense, motivation is the opposite of laziness or slothfulness, right? That kind of a basic sense. I mean, sometimes we just don't have the desire to do whatever it is that we know we should do or ought to do or supposed to do or whatever, you know, those kind of things. Sometimes we just don't have the willingness or whatever it is that to do whatever it is that needs to be done. Or we don't have that, if it's an internal condition, I guess is kind of what motivation is, isn't it? We don't have that internal condition that activates us to do whatever it is that we don't like to do or don't want to do or whatever. But you know what I want to do even when I say that, when I hear that, is that I want to say, well, yeah, that's the problem. I don't have that internal condition or that whatever it is that makes me motivated, that gets me motivated. That's the problem. That's not the answer. That's the problem, right? It really doesn't help do anything to help me discover what the answer is. And because what I'm really wanting to know, what we're really wanting to know at this point is, where do I get some, right? I know what I need. I know I need to get internally motivated. I know I need to get busy. I know I need to do something. But how do I get motivated? Where does that come from, right? Well, I got something really important that I need to tell you at this point, and I want you to listen really careful, because it's a fact, and we're going to talk about that, is that when it comes to motivation, and you want to get some, and you just don't feel internally motivated, I got to tell you, you've already got it. It's already there. You know, all of us already have motivation. And I can hear you saying, well, wait a minute, preacher, you know, how do you figure that? You know, I can't tell you how many times I just want to sit on the couch and do nothing, right? That's all I want. I agree. Me too. There are a lot of times when I just want to do that. But my next question is this. What motivates you to want to do nothing? Right? Exactly. We all already have motivation. What is it that motivates you to want to do nothing? Because doing nothing takes a motivation. I know we always want to think about motivation as being an active word, you know. As a matter of fact, but none of us does anything for no reason. We always have a reason for everything we do, because the fact is, what I believe in determines my motivation. What I believe in determines my motivation, and motivation is simply the influence of our needs and our desires on the intensity and the direction of our lives or our behavior. In other words, motivation is something that comes from within us and is driven by our immediate needs and or desires. Meaning that if you want to sit on the couch, there's a reason for that. If you're motivated to sit on the couch and do nothing but watch TV, there's a reason for that. You're doing that for a purpose. It really doesn't matter how lazy I might be or how unwilling I am to, in any given moment, how much I might want to sit on the couch and do nothing. Everything we do and or don't do is influenced or is motivated by what I believe in. And what I believe in also determines the intensity and direction of my behavior. Okay? So just below that oval where you put the word motivation, I want you to put the word faith in that next one. I want you to put faith, because what I believe in has a lot to do with or determines my motivation. Okay, so follow through with me. Since my motivation is determined by what I believe in, that's what we're saying, right? Motivated, but you're motivated by what you believe in. That's faith or belief. If you prefer to put belief there, that's fine. What I believe in determines my motivation. What I believe in determines my motivation. So, it stands to figure that my internal desire to do nothing is what motivates me to sit on the couch and watch TV. My internal desire to do nothing motivates me. I know, that sounds like an oxymoron. You can't say motivate and do nothing in the same sentence. Yeah, you can. Because you are motivated to do nothing. I suppose at least part of the problem here is that most of us probably look at the word motivation as being an active word. In other words, motivation being something that requires energy and action and those kind of things. We look at the word motivation as being an active word. You've got to be doing something that requires extra energy. Not so. Not so. Because you can be motivated to do nothing. I can be motivated to sit on the couch and do nothing simply because my physical body is too tired to do anything else. Well, then you're motivated by the fact that you're tired and you need some rest. My problem is sometimes, and I'm sure you are too, is I get so motivated by what I am doing, what I'm involved in, whether it's remodeling the house or working around here, whatever the case might be, that I flat forget to do anything else. I forget to drink water, and all of a sudden I'm so tired, and I'm being a danger to myself, quite literally. Especially if you're working around power tools, right? I've been in that position a lot of times, where you're so tired and you're so focused and you're so motivated by what you're doing, and I want to get this job completed. Matter of fact, I ran into that situation just the other day. I was working on something, and I was, of course, soaking wet with sweat because it's hot, and all those kind of things, and I hadn't been drinking water, and all of a sudden I realized, I just had one little thing I need to get done. It was easy, but boy, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I just couldn't seem to get it accomplished. Finally, bing! I realized, hey, I'm wiped out. I'm dehydrated. I need to go sit under the cooler for a few minutes and drink a couple gallons of water, right? That's motivation, is it not? You're motivated by something that makes me, I was motivated by my tiredness, the realization that I was getting dehydrated to go and do nothing for a few minutes. That's motivation. That's still motivation. So, we might know that we really need some rest. That's a motivation. So you don't get sick, fall asleep, hurt yourself, whatever the case might be, fall asleep at the wheel, wreck the car, all those different kind of things. As a matter of fact, however, on the other side of that, we can be motivated to do nothing just because we just don't want to do nothing, right? We are being self-centered at that point where we're expecting everybody else to pick up the workload. Happens a lot, doesn't it? If you worked in the workplace for very long, you already know that happens. If you're willing to do something, they're willing to let you do it. Right? And it's church setting as well, which is really awful. Because if you're willing to do something, then they're going to dump everything on you. No, can't do that either. And some of us need to learn how to say no. And say, my plate's full, can't do anything else. Okay, so in other words, the answer to the question of where does motivation come from, it's that all of us do whatever it is that we do and or don't do because of what we believe in. What we believe in determines our motivation. On the spiritual or emotional level, then, that means that all of us believe in someone or something, even if it's simply the belief in ourselves. All of us believe in someone or something. And whatever it is that we really believe in, that is the very same thing that will be the motivating factor for what we do within our lives. Whatever it is we believe in, if we simply believe in us, in me, then we're motivated by that belief that I'm the only important one here, right? Okay, so the question we really need to be asking, I guess, right now is what do I believe in? No, I'm serious. Seriously. You need to stop and think about, what do you believe in? Because whatever it is that you believe in, that is the motivating factor in your life for whatever it is that you do or don't do, because laying on the couch is doing something. So what is it that you are believing in at that particular point in time? That question needs to be answered. So in the simplest of terms, then let's delineate that for a few minutes. In the simplest of terms, that means that if you believe in providing for your family, if you believe that your family is important to you, if you believe in those kind of things, then I already know that you're a person that gets up and goes to work every morning, whether you feel like it or not. Matter of fact, some of us are motivated enough to where we'll go to work even if we're sick or not, right? Because you've got to do that. You've got to provide for your family. You've got to make the money. You've got to, do those kind of things. We're willing to put up with almost anything ourselves because we believe that our family is important. I agree. Now, if you believe that maintaining a good reputation is important, if that's important to you, then I'm sure that you're really careful on how you conduct yourself, especially in public. We're careful not to do those kind of things that would ruin our reputation if we believe in those kind of, not a bad thing, I'm just saying. If you believe that your personal appearance is important. Wow. Now that's a mustache. Whew, that's one. And I'll bet you this guy spends 3 hours in front of the mirror every morning, right? If you believe that your appearance is important, then you're going to take care of yourself. You're going to spend some time in front of the mirror doing whatever it is that you do. I always get a kick out of Ken. Ken and Wanda, they moved from here not too often. It's been a while now, a year ago or more. And whenever they go on a trip or something, I've helped him a time or two. And great big huge suitcase, great big sucker. It weighs 500 pounds, and you take it out to the car and you throw it in the trunk, And he said, that's just her makeup kit. Wait till we get the rest of it, He's always giving her a bad time like that. She knows he's kidding. But you know what? If that's what your motivation is, then I'm sure that's why you spend some time in front of the mirror in the morning. So, would you say that that's a bad thing? Any of those things we've talked about are bad things? No, they're not. It's a bad thing to care for your appearance or be a conscientious worker or to care for the needs of your family. Well, in and of themselves, absolutely not. No. Those are all good things, of course. However, if any of those things or a bazillion other things were to become the focus of your life, then we got a problem, right? Because that will be the motivating factor for everything you do. And if that's the case, if any one of those things or a bazillion other things is the motivating factor in your life, then I got a question for you. Maybe talking about the things we just talked about, what will you do what we have lived for if your wife divorces you and gets custody of the kids? If your family is the most important thing in your life, that's all you can think about. Well, then what are you going to do? Who are you going to be, right? Who will you be if you lose your job? If your job is where your identity and your motivation is at. If you're getting a bad accident and to have your face burned off and your personal appearance is the most important thing in your life, will you lose your will to live? Some do. Some don't. I've seen pictures of soldiers with their face just basically burned completely off, and hey, they're doing well. You got to respect a guy like that, man. Military anyway, all military and law enforcement people. So what I believe in is the determining factor in why I do what I do. What I believe in is a determining factor in why I do what I do. Okay, so what you need to know then about being motivated by the things that are in this world, and that kind of part of where we're going here, is that not only are the things that are in this world very fickle and very short-lived, if you're motivated by things that are in this world, your appearance or your family or your job or your car or your pickup or whatever it might be, I can tell you one thing, that our motivation will always be, if that's where we find our motivations in the world, our motivation, this is fact, will always be self-centered. Our motivation will always be self-centered. Okay, so in your outline, and if you got a menu with you, you can fill in that line. A self-centered life is always centered on me. That's all it is. We're always motivated by me. A self-centered life is always motivated by me, not by anything else. As a matter of fact, it doesn't matter, people like that. It doesn't matter who they have to step on, they're going to get what they want. They're going to get, be who they want to be, and it doesn't matter who they have to step on or who they have to talk bad about or those kinds of things. So my motivation will always be centered around how it affects me. I don't care about anybody else. If our lives are self-centered, if we're finding our identity in the world, then our motivation is going to be self-centered. And when it's self-centered, then all of our motivation is centered on me, not on anything else. We don't care about anything else. That's not a good thing, people. That's not a good thing. And you all know people that are like that. Sometimes we can be like that ourselves. And I think we need to be real careful. Sometimes that's necessary for us to say no or to, take care of ourselves, certainly. But is that the motivating factor in your life? So what I believe in is the determining factor in why I do what I do. Because the fact is, if you place your faith in the things that you can see, feel, and hear, if that's where your faith is that what you believe in, if your identity is in the things of this world, then your motivation will always be self-centered. If that's where your motivation is. Okay, so what's really important here is that we look and see what the Bible has to say about this whole issue. I just wanted to kind of get you on the right track here, and then we'll kind of take a look at what the Bible has to say, see if we can come to understanding of how this works within our lives. I like what Solomon had to say about this, about motivation, when he said he attempted to find his motivation in the things of this world. And when he got through it, he said, and I saw that all toil and all achievement spring from one man's envy of his neighbor. That's a self-centered motivation, right? It's motivated by envy. Well, why do you envy? Because you're concerned about, number one, nobody else. He also talked about in the New Testament about why church people and other folks can't get along with each other. Those kind of things. And there's back in the New Testament, he says that all that kind of stuff is self-centeredness. Jesus echoed this same thing, or James did, not Jesus. Talk about the reason why people fight with each other. He said, what is the source of the quarrels and the conflicts among you? What's the motivation? Why do you fight with each other, right? That's what he's asking us, asking the audience. What's your motivation? Why do you do that? Motivation. Is not the source of your pleasures, is not the source your pleasures that wage war in your members? You lust and you do not have, so you commit a murder. You are envious and cannot obtain, so you fight and you quarrel. It's a self-centered lifestyle. That's what he's saying. If you're only thinking about yourself, then you're going to be at war with other people. There's going to be quarrels. There's going to be fights, because the only one you can think about is yourself. Don't care about what anybody else thinks. It's all about me. It's all about me. So he says, there's your motivation. That's the source. That's where it all comes from when we start fighting and quarreling with each other. And I don't guess we do that here. Everything seems to run pretty smooth. So what did James say is the reason people fight and quarrel with each other? Well, because their motivation is self-centered. I want what I want. I don't care who I have to step on to get it. Now, because when we do that, our identity is in the world, not in Christ. It's in the world. And anyone that tries to take that away from me, anyone that tries to take away, listen carefully, anyone who tries to take whatever it is that is my identity, anybody tries to take my identity away, if my identity is in the world, that's what they're doing. They're going to be in big trouble. If they buck me, if they disagree with me, if they do any of those kind of things, they're messing with my identity. Nobody wants their identity messed with, do they? In other words, they take it really, really personal. because that's where my identity is at. So anytime my identity is tied in stuff and things, whether it's monetary stuff or worldly things or whatever the case might be, our physical appearance or the opinion of others, I don't care. Our own personal feelings of power, or the people we know who are in power, the religious denomination we belong to, make a list. Any of those kind of things. The fine upstanding family that we have, that we've raised, all those kind of things. If that's where our identity is at, then we'll never be able to find either peace in our lives or the freedom from our fears, because all of those things are temporal. They're very short-lived. So anytime we find our identity in the world, our motivation is going to be self-centered, and we're always going to have problems. Our lives need to be Christ-centered. We're going to be talking about in the next week or two about being Christ-centered as well. But right at this point, we're going to talk about being self-centered, because that's oftentimes that's where our world lives. That's where our world lives, and sometimes that's where we find ourselves living. So what is your motivation? Well, we've got to answer that question for ourselves. So the only, again I'm going to say it, the only identity that is of any lasting value is our identity in Christ. Why? Because, well, the Bible tells us when Christ, who is our life, is revealed, then you also will be revealed with Him in glory. Our identity is in Him, and we depend on Him to tell us who we are, which is always positive. We'll look at that those aspects in a week or two. But so the thing I want you to understand here is when we're talking about motivation and what we believe in, if it's in the world, then our motivation is going to be by what we believe in is going to always be self-centered. It's always going to be self-centered. On the other side of that picture of our life is in Christ, that we're motivated by what He says and what He believes and what He says about us. Not about what the world says. Not about the kind of pickup we drive. Not about how well behaved our family is. I was raised in a family, as most of you already know, I was a preacher's kid, and I swore to my last breath I would never be a preacher when I grew up. God's got a good sense of humor, doesn't He? Because I saw, my dad pastor a church and all the trouble and stuff that he went through. And it was because of in that particular case, it was because of what they believed in. They believed in the denomination. They believed in the legalism and all those different kind of things. And there was lots of problems and lots of fights. But, even being raised in a family like that, us kids had to be perfect. And when we weren't perfect, we were in big trouble. Not because they were necessarily trying to keep us out of trouble, but because we shed bad light on my dad, who was the pastor. Same with teachers. Some of you are teachers, and your kids, you want your kids to do the best. You want to get straight A's because you're a teacher. Well, you got to decide, is that because you want them to be, to get ahead, or is it because they might make you look bad as a teacher? You understand what I'm saying? So where's your motivation at, right? Well, that's why it's important to find our identity in Jesus Christ, so that our motivation will always be built upon our faith and our trust in Him. God's awesome, and He knows what He's doing, So don't place your identity or your faith in the things of this world, because it never lasts. Won't get you nowhere. Always going to find ourselves in trouble. Awesome. God's awesome. Lord bless you all. Amen. Give God a hand.